Hi there, Dave. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, David. And you?
Yeah, brilliant. Good to have two Daves together on a Friday afternoon, isn't it?
It is. It
Best
is.
name, the best
I
name.
worked in. I played cricket once for a cricket team that had seven Daves in it. So
Seven Daves. There you go. What could be
more
better?
common. Yeah, yeah.
It's not as well. Interestingly, and kind of off topic, the world. There's a thing you can go onto BBC where it tracks people's names from 1900 to 2020. I
Right.
might
Yeah.
post it in the link here, but Dave is the only name that has been in the top 100 for all of those years.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
That
so
probably explains. You know the TV channel called Dave. The
Dave,
story.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Why the story behind why they chose that is because everybody's got a mate called Dave.
Exactly, yeah, yeah. I'm 6'4", so my mates call me Big Dave. So I
Right.
think,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm 6'3".
But anyway,
I'm 6'3", so I'm slightly smaller, Dave.
that's right. Yeah, well, imagine two tall Daves. So
Yeah.
great to see you. Here we have Dave Fenton here from Ancoris. Ancoris are a Google Cloud Services provider. Dave Fenton is the VP for Services for Ancoris. We're going to say many years in the IT industry, straight from university, but we'll talk about that. And it's a company that GCS are proud to have worked with for many years, and is really going from kind of strength to strength in the industry at the moment, obviously based around cloud. GCS, just a kind of quick intro, is obviously a technology recruiter. We are create a kind of global network that introduce expert talent to innovative companies, of which Ancoris is definitely one. And this is part of the GCS Connect Leaders Series. GCS Connect is where we try virtually to build that community and bring forward different ideas, webinars, events, conversations, so that hopefully we help more of those expert talent to introduce themselves to the innovative companies that we work with. So without further ado, Dave, obviously that's my intro to yourself. Do you want to just kind of give me a little bit of intro about yourself, maybe about Ancoris and what you particularly kind of focus on? Because it's a very interesting company in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, from a company point of view, we're a relative. Well, I guess now technically we're what the government call a mid-market company. So we've kind of
Yeah.
crossed over from being small business,
Yeah.
and I think that means that we're like over 50 people and over 50 million pounds of revenue per year. So we're in that sort of space.
Yeah.
We're a cloud services provider
Have
focused
you
in.
been with them from the start of that journey then? Have you kind of...
So no, so the founder, a guy called David McClellan, who's the CEO,
Yeah.
he and I, and in fact our sales VP, all worked together about 25 years ago in a previous company. So we know each other from the past. A company
Okay.
called
Yeah.
Sequent, who were actually equally innovative in their time. And I've been with the company about 10 years.
Sure.
And I got the classic phone call, do I know somebody that might fit this sort of job? And it kind of went from there.
Yeah.
But as a company, what we do is we're entirely cloud focused. We're kind of born in the cloud, and we're all about helping customers move into the cloud, whether that be their kind of office productivity through what was G Suite and is now Workspace, whether it be infrastructure through Google Cloud Platform, whether it be their use of mapping technology through the business version of Google Maps,
Yeah.
whether it be moving critical business applications and bespoke work into the cloud based on Google Cloud Platform and writing specific applications for those customers. So it's all about how can to try and avoid the old cliche of digital transformation. It's all about taking elements of our customers' business and workload and moving that into the Google Cloud.
And I guess it's a bit of a kind of an easy ball, but that is something that is at forefront of everyone's minds at the moment, isn't it? With the
Well,
current...
absolutely. I mean, if you could choose somewhere to be in the middle of this, as a business point of view, it would clearly be that sort of space, moving to the cloud, helping people become more productive, removing bottlenecks, all that stuff that the cloud can do for you, enabling the kind of work from anywhere at any time, while still being 100% secure. So absolutely, we're kind of right in the right spot for that at the moment.
Is that what I mean? we mentioned about security there, and obviously, would you say that's probably the key thing that holds people back on that? Because I mean, in the end, you know, the cost is maybe better. The tech is constantly updated. What do you think are the key things that hold people back from actually doing it? Like, it's been around for many years. I mean, people are moving towards it due to this, but why do you think the take up maybe was less before?
Well, I think there's a number of things. Certainly, it would be true to say maybe 2 or 3 years ago, concerns about security were kind of on everybody's mind. And to be fair, if we're in a conversation with a prospect and they don't ask us about security, we kind of know that they're perhaps not. They haven't thought about it. They haven't thought about what they're looking to do. But the reality is that, you know, all the kind of cloud providers, the Googles, the AWS, the Azure, the emphasis that they put on security, to be frank, is way more than most corporations could possibly do. There are literally hundreds of security experts at Google, kind of writing the standards. They're introducing the new services and products. And then when you compare that to, you know, a mid-sized company that's got an on-prem data center, being run by 4 or 5 people who are working very hard, who are maybe not experts in everything they're doing.
Yeah, not able to keep up with what's happening.
Absolutely. So actually, the security story is now really strong, and that's while we, you know, clearly when we have new business opportunities that we have to deal with that, and we get asked that, and actually it's more kind of tick in the box and off we go and talk about kind of business opportunity and how to implement change. And to answer your specific question about the kind of pace, I guess, yeah, the whole thing, and part of what attracted me and many others into companies like Ancoris is that you want to do something different. You're actually changing the working model of whoever you're working with.
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
Actually fundamentally changing how things get done. And you know, that's got a whole change management aspect to it. It's got a whole kind of business justification to it. Sometimes it's got an emotional aspect to it, in terms of, you know, I want to keep hold of this stuff. And those are the sort of discussions that you'll unearth as you talk to prospects about moving. I think it's probably true to say at the moment that everybody is doing something. They might only be doing a small part of their infrastructure or their environment, or they might only be doing a bit of mobile-led type work, but it's now on every CIO and CTO and CEO's agenda. And of course COVID could only have kind of made that more high profile.
That's right. And I think you know, one of the things we talk about is challenges as a leader. You know, you've obviously been in many different kind of guises within the industry. Would you say that this is maybe the biggest challenge that you've seen in the last kind of 6 to 12 months? And if not, which was worse? Please tell me.
I mean, clearly this is absolutely one of those black swan events that you couldn't possibly have forecast that it would be like this. I mean, we've all worked in companies where you've had your business continuity plan and your disaster recovery plan, and that kind of works up to a point. But this is, you know, by far and away, across many different dimensions, the kind of biggest change or challenge that kind of certainly the businesses that I've been working in have seen in the past. And if you go back and you look at some of the other challenges, the whole, you know, millennial bug, which kind of proved to be a bit of a, you know, not as desperate as people felt, although a lot of people in IT would say that's because we did such a good job in avoiding it.
True. There was lots of work coming up to it, wasn't
it? Absolutely. If you look at the kind of .com bubble and that bursting, you know, that was quite a significant challenge. I happened to join an internet data center hoster at the top of the .com bubble, and then 12 months later, when I'd kind of cut the size of the organization significantly. I then put myself on the top of the list to leave. So that was quite a challenge, keeping that operation going. I've actually been quite fortunate in the sense that many of the places that I've worked have been, I guess what the modern day term would be disruptors, i.e. trying to do something different. And those type of companies can actually benefit when the economic environment is under some stress, or when companies have to do something different. So yeah, we kind of see that there are two really hot areas for companies like ours. Those are customers who now want to do something different, or new companies that are expanding quickly and need to be able to move into being a much more industrial strength type company than they were when they were working out of somebody's garage 5 years ago.
Yeah, and you're obviously in the kind of VP for services, so you go out to customers and you're up against companies that are, like you said, selling Azure, selling AWS or something like that. So we said at the start of this, I'm happy for you to tell me why Google is the best. So some of those people are doing differently, will probably want to move away, I'm assuming, from Microsoft, right? Like, I've been on Microsoft for all these years, but now so why would someone choose to move entirely to Google? Because it's not the standard, is it? You're making a big choice, like kind of changing your political party or your religion even,
And actually, that's a good point, and that actually appeals. There are some people to whom that appeals. I've been, and I'm not going to kind of spend too much time, if you like, knocking the competition, because they're quality organisations. We take the view that the more noise and buzz there is around cloud, then it's actually beneficial for us. I'm sure all the stats of only 10% or 15% of the world's workload is even anywhere near being in cloud. So it's actually as much about moving people from on-prem type environments. And then the argument there is obviously the whole flexibility, the collaboration, the ability to work where you want, the security, all the factors that you and I might take to granted in the very fact that we're having this type of call.
It wouldn't happen before. To come and see you properly, Dave. We'd have to sit in the office,
especially if
a camera or something. It'd be very much weirder, I think. I don't think it would work very well,
Well, I've done that sort of thing in the past, and this works fine, doesn't it? So but to go back to the point, then clearly, if you're serious about the move into the cloud, you're clearly going to be looking at AWS, Azure, and Google. And so then it becomes, are there any specifics about their offerings? And clearly we would say there are some areas where Google is much stronger than some of the competition. It equally then comes down to people, doesn't it? It comes down to the confidence that you have in the provider you choose and the partner that you choose to help you on your journey.
For sure.
And play it out from there.
So in some ways, it's the people that they're engaging with, that they trust, and that's a big thing, I think, in the cloud, isn't it? You've got to trust your partners to know that they're outsourcing this, so that I need to know you're doing a good job, right?
Sure. And there's we just focus on Google, so clearly there are opportunities that we're not good candidates for if somebody's already decided that they want to go in a different direction. But equally, the benefit of that is our customers know that we are really, really in depth on Google. We're one of their premier partners in the UK. We have routes into their management globally. So we can bring to bear all those sort of benefits that maybe you would struggle to get with some of the other hosters.
And you've obviously worked for, I'm just interested in kind of going into the Google side, because obviously it's one of those companies, isn't it, that people look at like this is an aspirational company, isn't it? You hear about the kind of the two guys that set it up, all the things they do. Yeah, working with them as you have over the last 10 years, I mean, you said like links into Google management and that sort of thing. What have you picked up from them that maybe, obviously we're talking to you as a leader, but what have you learned from the kind of Google leaders that you think that's why they've got it? That's the secret sauce type thing.
I think there's the whole approach of make something happen quickly, and if it doesn't work, then be prepared to close it down and move on to something else.
Yeah.
As opposed to spend 6 months building the case to do something, then spend 5 months working out whether it's the right thing to do, and then do it, and then because you've already done it, you've got to stick with it. Google are very strong at, right, we've got this idea, we're going to do this. If after a year or two it's not working, then we'll find a graceful way to kind of close it down and move to a different service.
Yeah.
So that kind of make things happen quickly, and that, I think Google call it fail fast. So
yeah, fast. I've heard that term a few times. Yeah.
So that's kind of something which I think as kind of they brought to me. I guess the other thing, and we try and reflect it in our hiring, is it's all about hiring the best people you possibly can. And I know that's a truism when you come to recruit, but finding the really bright graduates who you don't just hire them for the job that they do today, you're actually hiring them for where you might be able to put them in your organization 3 or 4 years time. And
it's really interesting.
Google do that really well, obviously based over in Silicon Valley, not far from a lot of the top universities, etc., etc. And they also have a recruitment policy of hiring people who fit into Google, so who are very adept at kind of fast moving, who have the same outlook on life, perhaps, who are maybe the same sort of age. Certainly the first few times I went into their offices, both in London and over in San Francisco, then as somebody who, should we say, is relatively experienced in the IT industry, you're kind of suddenly surrounded by some very bright, intelligent 25, 30-year-olds.
IT grads and stuff.
Yeah.
Is it a film with Robert De Niro where he does that, isn't there? I don't know if you've seen that.
There is the famous Google, I forget what it is called now, all about the interns or something like that. And
the intern. Yeah, I think it's Robert De Niro as an intern, which would be great. Imagine Robert De Niro as your junior. But no, I think
the balance there is actually keeping the energy and the enthusiasm and the smarts of young, intelligent teams, and then mixing that with the grey hair of people who know about dealing with corporates, and who, if you're going out to a mid-sized business, 20, 30,000 person business, they're going to want to see not just that you've got the bright young things with the intelligence and the ideas, but also the kind of people who have been there, done that, got the process, got the understanding.
And I think that for me is one of the things that's kind of come out of these conversations, is that, wisdom and experience that you've picked up over many, many years is sometimes a bit kind of underrated, isn't it? I
would say that, wouldn't I? I think.
Yeah, well, no, but it is though. It's when you talk to people, like a lot of this has kind of come out of what's happening now.
Yeah.
When you talk to people, like, lots of
true. I've been through 2 or 3 kind of economic crises, recession, all that type of stuff. I guess can't help but give you a slightly different attitude to if it's your very first time.
I think
it is important. Part of that wisdom, though, is the wisdom to know when actually it's time to kind of hand it on to the kind of young, thrusting team and adopt their solution to the problem, and not just do what you've always done.
And seeing that, because like I've said in a few other kind of leadership, charisma, that go-getter attitude it isn't linked. It can be, you know, whatever age. You can't really teach it either. You've either got it or you haven't. You have to identify those things that work, like you just said, best in your culture, best in your business. Who is this person I can really kind of put time into to grow?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
That links me back into that kind of mention about grads, because, you know, I know that Ancoris is quite famous for taking on people at that grad level as well. Maybe it's something that you've kind of picked up from Google, maybe it's not, but so that's something that you've brought into your own business. How have you seen, like, for other people maybe watching that maybe you're a little bit, I want to hire people at this level, how have you seen that help your business to be successful?
I guess in a number of ways. I mean, we consciously have a couple of parts of the organization into which we will hire the, if you like, the brightest graduates that we can find, and we kind of work closely with yourselves on that. Not necessarily with a view of, you know, we need to keep them in that role, and some of those roles are quite technical, so that kind of fits with hiring bright people. But consciously, right, we could see this person doing this job in 18 months time. And, you know, we've moved people from, say, technical support into consultancy, into software development, into testing, into pre-sales, into customer success. And then they can go out and meet with customers with the kind of credibility of seeing the technology working, cut their teeth on dealing with customers in a kind of support role, and have the credibility behind them of a good couple of years of doing solid customer facing work. And I think kind of finding, and then also having the energy of, right, we can do this, we can do that.
Yeah, that's right. And they're kind of, you know, innovating for themselves and that sort of thing. I think it's a great point. I mean, at GCS, I mean, I'm probably a good example of that. I joined GCS as a grad, and here I am all these years later. And, you know, I think it gives you as well, you know, if you grow up with a company, it gives you a real sense of kind of ownership of the company, even if you're not the founder. It's like, this is something I care about passionately. And I think that passion that you have with people that you've trained up, and it's football, like, you know, people have come through the academy in a football team, you know, they kind of care more about the badge or whatever, don't they? Not always, but quite a lot. So
and certainly if you know, if you continue to find opportunities for people to stretch themselves, then you get the reward of that with both the quality of the work that they do and how long they'll stay with you.
So if you were to kind of give advice to business leaders, you know, who are maybe, you know, looking to kind of build that type of thing, what are the kind of mistakes that you can make around grads, around kind of bringing the wrong people on into your team?
I think you have to find some way of building that kind of grad community. So actually, you know, I've worked for huge organisations. I've worked for the, you know, large multinationals where, you know, yes, they've hired a load of grads, but they've dotted them all around the company. So actually, you know, the individual feels a little swamped by the process, feels a little bit swamped by the people that have been there for 25 years, and this is how we've always done it. So certainly one of the things that, you know, I guess we have a natural advantage because we're a relatively small company. But we do have a sense of community of people that we bring in. Quite often they'll come in at roughly the same sort of time of the year. Quite often they'll see that their predecessors moved on after 18 months, 2 years inside the company. So actually having that kind of community, I feel, is quite important, I think.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of links in so that people can see that, you know, put this effort in, this is how you move forward. And we found that as well with Academy. You know, get people working together and they can talk and they can share.
Yeah, absolutely.
Share sometimes, so they're kind of the pain, if you know what I mean. It's like this. It's hard. This is hard learning this. Do you always take on grads? Would you advise taking on grads always from a computer background, or have you ever had people kind of coming outside it? Because that's always something we see, because obviously there's not enough computer graduates, but there's very many intelligent graduates that probably could pick it up. But what's your viewpoint on that?
I would probably say most of the grads that we take on would have some sort of IT computer science type background, but there are certainly some that we would bring on who, you know, we would envisage moving into a maybe marketing or
Yeah.
customer success type role.
Yeah.
And you know, we've got enough kind of slots and opportunities to do that.
Mm.
Probably most, clearly you need to be IT literate, and clearly you need to be comfortable with technology, but
Yeah.
more and
Who
more
isn't these
people are.
days?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. So,
even I can use the Zoom. You know what I mean? And you know, kind of thinking about the business you're kind of building. I'm just quite kind of interested to see. You think about innovative technology, right? And you think about how it might kind of help businesses now to survive and thrive. So obviously, I think as we said at the start, like this is a kind of good business to be in at this moment, right? You know, there's lots of demand. On day one, maybe of this particular moment, then did you, and you mentioned about the kind of leadership and the guys you've worked with before, which I think I guess is a good example of making sure you keep with your network, right? Is, you know, keep friends with people that you worked with in the past. You never know what will come up, but you obviously saw positives coming out of it. How did you react? Like, okay, this is happening. What were your kind of like, you know, 30-day plans at this moment? Because I guess you must have thought, right, this could be good for us in our business.
yeah, I mean, well, I guess there's kind of the inside view of that and the outside view of that.
Yeah.
The inside view of that is, you know, we're running a business. A certain amount of our business comes from, you know, current contracts that annually renew, and a certain amount of it comes from new business that we have to go out and find every year.
Yeah.
So clearly, part of our, we were thinking about, right, so what impact is this going to have on our current annualized renewable revenues and current customers, and how many of them are likely to be in a really bad position over this?
Have we got any airline clients?
Yeah, so and unfortunately, we've actually only had a couple of customers who have kind of really suffered badly from it.
Yeah.
So there's thinking about that. There's while we sell the technology that allows businesses to manage and thrive in this sort of environment.
Yeah.
So actually, if you like, the time for us as a company to move from everybody in the office to, right, most people are going to be at home most of the time, that was a total non-issue. You know, over time, we've moved most of our systems into the cloud. Not necessarily always Google. So, you know, we use things like Salesforce, we use things like Freshdesk, all cloud-based services that work really well in a Google environment. So actually, as our own business, the shock of it to us being able to function was actually pretty low, because we know that we
can walk, I guess. You know, we can do it, so you can do it.
Yeah. The kind of impact that it had on our business that we were doing outside, then, as I say, we had relatively little issue with our current customers, because they're mostly on annualized contracts where we're kind of delivering service based on the Google infrastructure. Like most organizations, finding new business became pretty tough. A lot of customers where you would think they'd absolutely want to move to cloud tomorrow were not quite paralyzed, but they were all, how do I get what I've got today working by Friday so that I can kind of carry on doing business? And any change to the cloud, you know, clearly needs to be thought about properly. There's some stuff that you can do immediately and do in parallel with your current business, like, you know, Zoom. You can move to Zoom or you can move to Google Meet pretty instantly. But you wouldn't want to necessarily move all of your back office systems immediately. Some of those things take a bit of planning and deployment and all that type of stuff. So some of those big decisions, if you like, have taken a few months and are now starting to come to fruition. So it's certainly true to say that, you know, we've seen more activity in terms of new business over the last 2 or 3 months than we did right at the start of the pandemic.
Yeah, and that's great, isn't it? Because we're seeing that as well. You're starting to see, new projects kicking off. The thing we felt about recruitment was obviously for that, like you said, that first kind of 6 to 8 weeks when it first happened, is everyone was just trying to work out what to do, weren't they? How the hell am I going to interview people or onboard people or do anything with anyone? How am I going to lead teams and that sort of thing? And now people have worked out, and now they've got to, business has to keep moving, doesn't it? You can't stop.
Yeah, it's what is it, Maslow's hierarchies, isn't it? Yeah. So you get something like COVID, the first you immediately jump back down to how am I going
to eat?
My organisation.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll just do the most pragmatic thing I can, no matter how ugly it is. And then it's only after you get all that sorted that you have the kind of bandwidth and the time to start to think about, right, there needs to be a better way of this. And I think we're getting now into there needs to be a better way than we're doing it now. And that then kicks off projects, the sort of thing that we'll be doing.
I'm impressed that you've used both the hierarchy of need and the black swan analogy in this conversation, Dave.
Oh, well,
it's good stuff. I did a post yesterday about
that's part of the key, isn't it? You've got to, I used to tell some of my directs that it was, if a manager wasn't staring out the window for 10% of his week thinking about what he's thinking about, then they're not doing the right sort of job. It's very easy, particularly at a time of crisis like this, to focus on the must do today, but actually trying to find time to keep yourself up to date with new ideas, thinking about stuff is really important.
I did a post actually the other day on LinkedIn, which is called 5 books, right? So I posted that you've got, I know it's the exploration is curiosity or something, I think we've told this. I've noticed, I haven't got it, I've noticed that bookshelves have become more and more prevalent in people's backgrounds. I don't know if you've noticed this when you're talking to people. You just seem to have tactically placed a bookshelf there, and it's like,
of course, what you don't know these days is that all the video providers have a way of putting on a self-selected background, so you could.
You can get the works of Shakespeare or something behind you. But I put up that. So I'd like you to now look at your bookshelf and actually tell me 5 books that you're actually kind of interested in. And one of them was Black Swan book, Nicholas Taleb book. So it's kind of, that was one of my 5, if you know what I mean. So I was impressed that you mentioned that. And we've obviously talked about now, and we talk about kind of going forward. So from your side, what are the most, and it does link into what's happening now in the cloud and stuff, but what are the most interesting kind of innovative technologies that Google started to kind of come out with that you think are going to be really big in the next few years, whether or not we get a vaccine and we're all kind of back to normal? What are you excited by at the moment?
Well, I guess there's things are going to change work-wise, I think probably in 3 different ways, I think. One is the kind of where you're going to be doing your work. So it's not going to be 5 days a week, 9 to 5 in an office.
No,
it's going to be a hybrid mixture of that. And kind of businesses getting their head around what that means is not an insignificant challenge, and clearly is quite a technological challenge when you look at the way some systems are built, and the legacy systems that a lot of us rely on. I guess the second way that things change is what are you actually going to focus on? So if you look at big data and the ability to get insights that you couldn't possibly get before, then I think that's going to drive a whole load of new initiatives, new ideas, new business opportunities that weren't available. So that's really quite an exciting area. So starting off from, we all used to have spreadsheets where if you kind of cut the data in a certain way, you'd get a certain type of insight. And that's now with things like Google's BigQuery, you can just get crunch loads of data, come up with insights. The whole data science thing, I think, is really, really exciting. And sitting on top of that is then machine learning and artificial intelligence, which can kind of really propel you into a totally different environment in terms of appreciating the value of your data. And then I guess the third way things can change is actually there's a whole load of stuff that you've got to do at the moment, but you could do that in a much more efficient manner. And that's where you get to, let's move this infrastructure into the cloud, let's re-engineer, let's put, let's lose containers, let's put Kubernetes in there, let's kind of do things in a, we've still got to do a payroll program, we've still got to do an ERP system, but we can do it in a different way. So to me, there's those kind of three ways that things are going to change, particularly as we get more cloud adoption.
Yeah, and that's right. And I guess it's that part of that battle of kind of as it's moving forward, you've got those competitors, like you said, that are driving each other onwards. So, you've got,
absolutely.
well, they did this, so now we need to try and do this.
So our competition in many ways is not the other cloud providers. It's actually the getting it off-prem or getting people to think about new ways of doing stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And if you've moved this part into the cloud, then you can use these tools, and how are you going to use them? We've had a few conversations really recently about kind of automation and the fact that people see that it could be a good thing, but are kind of finding it difficult to get their head around actually how they would use it. And it's almost like too big, like you just said, it's too big a thing to make any kind of cool business.
I think the whole cloud thing is for most companies, unless you're a relatively new startup, where why would you ever put something on-prem? Then every organization is going to have that legacy. Legacy is probably a slightly insulting word, isn't it? But they've got that kind of infrastructure that's worked for them in the past.
Proprietary to things, I suppose.
Clearly the thought of moving all of that at once to the cloud is totally unrealistic. And part of our job is to help identify particular work packages and particular use models that can be moved into the cloud as maybe a first phase, as maybe the kind of initial steps on a journey. So kind of educating and helping select the right opportunities is a key part of what we do as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, Dave, it's been great to speak to you today. I've really, really enjoyed it. It's been very, very, very. It's great to hear of businesses that are doing well, and Ancoris is definitely one of those. And it's great to hear as well someone like yourself who has lots of experience in the industry, who's really giving a helping hand to people kind of coming into the industry. And I'm really kind of pleased to hear about that. And hopefully other business leaders will take your advice and follow your lead, if you know what I mean. So thank you very much for speaking to me today. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Good pleasure.